Game 8 of the FIDE World Championship match presented by Google is over, and it was a game full of unconventional play, daring defense, and of course some courageous decisions. It starts off with Ding going for one of the opening moves he hasn't tried, the English. c4, and then Gukesh, unsurprised, reacted with e5, and then after knight c3, the first small surprise with bishop to b4, so Gukesh already starting to steer the game into lesser-known waters. Yeah, and Gukesh with the first surprise, a few moves down the line, the bishop dropping back. This isn't the most popular move, but it was later that his idea was revealed. White here, fianchettoing, a trade, knight for bishop, and here, black playing a very surprising plan. Pawn to f6, he's actually just building a big pawn center, pretty much by force here. White has the bishop pair, but black is just in time. There we go. After attacking a pawn, pawn to d5, and this is a beautiful pawn formation, Ivanka, and Gukesh got a strong middle game. He certainly did, and it's all because of the fact that it's not very easy for white to actually come up with a mode of challenging black's central pressure. And there you see Ding just developing b3, a5, two of the funny moves on the board, and now it's roundabout here where Ding starts taking radical means in order to resolve the tension in the center. Yeah, a huge decision. Sometimes you've got to go back in or just go forwards. This white knight, a bit sidelined. But the idea is to break open the center, as we saw on the next move. Pawn to f4, luring out his own rook here, but breaking the black pawn chain in the center, at least. And after another trade, we saw the white rook start to enter some really clumsy squares, getting kicked around the board, stepped into the middle in front of its own pawns. And here Gukesh started playing really strongly. Yeah, it certainly did, and it's very unusual to actually see a World Championship game with the pawns d2 and e2 not having moved. And after the bishop retreated, it was under attack. d3 consolidated absolutely everything, and it's round about here where Gukesh really starts to amp up the pressure. That's right, here Ding started trying to take safe approaches. He tried to trade off knights. Gukesh said no. And after a trade of rooks, a slip maybe from Ding, a misstep here, sliding across with his rook, allowing a powerful pawn break, pawn to b5. And Ding here started shaking his head, but came up with something really cunning after a trade. A check now against the white king. The king shuffled towards the center, counterintuitively, and this is where Ding came up with what later looked like a stroke of genius. Yes, that's a b2. It was a gamble, but it paid off big time, because Ding allows Gukesh to capture that pawn on a2, and here, this is the whole point, that the bishop will come forward and attack the queen, counterattack, and there's only one move for Gukesh to actually preserve his advantage, and it's really abnormal. It's actually moving the d knight, blocking that bishop, and leaving that bishop on leaving the knight on a6 in order to then get on with the job of advancing the queenside pawns. Yeah, and ultimately it was a case of the wrong knight. He chose the other knight, and suddenly the advantage switched hands. Ding here with a pin on the black knight, and sliding across with his queen as well. Very cunning stuff. It ended up being a double pin, as the black rook needed to slide across now. A pin on the c-file, a pin on this diagonal, and a few moves later, Ding won material. Yeah, but this wasn't worth the fun. Just going to point out that knight to e1 would have been a winning move for Ding, but knight to d4 was very, very normal. Would have won, just to making sure that there are no checks on the background later in some key variations. Knight d4 normal, as you say, Ivanka. Very normal, very natural, just putting pressure against the bishop. And here is where things get really interesting, because Ding just launches the first blow. There you see, lobbing his knight into c6. Yeah, now there's too much pressure on this black knight. Gukesh needs to limit the damage. He gave up his rook for the knight, and once the dust settles, it was white with the material advantage. A rook for knight. Black does have a pawn, however, and two very dangerous pawns. And just a few moves down the line, we thought we were about to see a handshake. In this position, we started seeing a dance between the queens, black's queen jumping in, white's queen blocking. The queen retreating, white's queen offering a trade. But after some twists and turns, on move 41, after the players had been given more time, Gukesh shocked us all, shocked Ding. It was an incredibly gutsy decision. He decides to play on, sacrificing a pawn. The rook must block the check, and now the queen dives back to e6. And here it just looks like white is the one making progress. After all, we can come up and give a check, and then grab the pawn. Now, this is what transpired. The black b-pawn, however, extremely strong, and white just not quite in time to coordinate the pieces. If white gets one more move, the bishop dropping back, undermining this black knight. If the queen drops back, if the white rook ever lands on c7, for example, this would have been game over. White would be winning, but Gukesh here came up with some very accurate moves. He brought his queen back to the center. He jumped in now with his queen. Some huge threats, Simenka. Yeah. And there you can see that the game quickly ended after Ding just offered a queen up for exchange, and now there you see with the pawn advancing a nice little tactical flourish to take it to an opposite color bishop endgame, and with it, it's going to be a draw.